Shout out BruceGas, aka Toka 2. You know I had to drop a track for my boy. Where you at? Yeah, I've been here rapping boys out here telling baby. I'm the hardest nigga, I ain't signed to no label. Hey, BruceGas put no fights on the table. Calling that boxing since Kane versus Abel. Smoking too much gas, you would think that shit was fatal. The people simple like Muhammad Ali. Shut up, BruceGas, one day we gon' meet. Yeah, we gon' blow it down, we gon' smoke hella weed. Yeah, we gon' blow it down, take a hit out the Toka 2. Slip a hella shots, feel like Tyson with the people. Little Glock on my side, but it hit just like Cruz. Shout out, man, chat real shit, that's my fucking dude. We always cooking on the pan. Strapped to my side, I ain't talking about no sin. Bruce passed me the blunt, I'ma light it like a candle. Hey, non-stop bars, man, I always spit flames. Feel like BruceGas always got a different strain. Bitch, you ain't like me, you could never feel my pain. You win and you lose, well, this the fight game. Don't beef on the net and the shit won't change. Said that on the street, gotta do it for the game. Said that on the street, gotta do it for the chat. I ain't undisputed. Yeah, hold on, I ain't undisputed, but I want all the straps.
Good morning, good afternoon. That's right, it's afternoon by now. Keep that jazz in the background. That's the Will Bernard Quartet. Will Bernard, sensational guitar player. Nicole Glover on the tenor sax. Ben Allison on the bass and Allison Miller on the drums. We got a gender-neutral jazz band happening in the background as we get here to honor the birthday of the great Joe Frazier. Happy 80th birthday, Smoking Joe. You're here with Smoking BruceGas on a Friday afternoon, the 12th of January in the year 2024. Woo, 2024. I didn't see that one coming. Oh no, where's my lighter? There we go. It is noontime, so it is socially and morally acceptable to indulge. And after all, man, it is the celebration, the honoring of the great Joe Frazier. First one of the day. You know what first one says? First one says, do another. Do another, my brother. Stay in the right frame of mind for this little discussion about the legendary Joe Frazier. Mr. Pads, my brother. Let me see here. Let me shout out who came in here today. I know my friend Joe was in here earlier, man. And I don't know if Joe's up now. He's from Ireland. In a perfect world, Ali and Frazier still be there, doing interviews and talking about how they would handle Fury like Tunney and Dempsey used to do. You know it, Joe. You're a true historian out there, man. Jose Diaz, my brother. Salute from Cuba. My man, Mr. Pads. You remember watching Joe Frazier and Eddie Machen? I didn't watch the fight, bro. I heard about it, man. I've read about it. Oh, definitely super important, Mr. Pads. Definitely super important. Marky Dan, how you doing, my brother? Thank you for coming by, man. Thank you for coming by. Here to wish Joe Frazier a happy 80th birthday, man. I mean, Joe, the youngest of 12 children, man. Joe was Joe had quite the family when he grew up. Grew up in poverty, basically a sharecropper. His dad used to make the moonshine to keep the food on the table. He lived in Beaufort, South Carolina, where the ground was only fit to raise to grow watermelon and cotton. He couldn't grow peas and corn, the money crops of the area. But they got by. You know, when Joe was a big kid, man. When Joe was yeah, Mr. Pads. I mean, that's so true, Mr. Pads. Yeah, you know, that's why I don't usually get too many people when I do these. You know, when I do the cover of the fights and stuff, we get more people to come around. But hey, man, this is, if you don't know this about boxing, then you really got no business. You got no business talking about the rest of boxing, bro. Hey, my brother, Cash Sports, man. Salute to you, bro. Great show every day, man. Thank you for coming by, man. I'm here to honor legendary Smoking Joe Frazier. Smoking Joe, man. Like I said earlier, bro, he grew up in poverty on the farm. When he was young, he was fucking around with the hog. They had a 300-pound hog on the farm, and it was a sharecropping, basically a dirt farm. And Joe had an accident that he was fucking around with the hog. The hog chased him down, man, and really fucked up his left arm. And Joe is a hard luck boxer. When Joe was in school for the short time that he was the kind of a guy where the kids would give him a quarter or a sandwich to walk with him, so the bullies wouldn't pick on him, because Joe was intimidating even at that size. And his uncle said, "Man, you're the next heavyweight champ of the world," because the family got a TV set, and people used to come over and they'd watch Henry Armstrong and Rocky Marciano and Sugar Ray Robinson, Joe Louis. And his uncle said, "Man, we got another Joe Louis here, bro." And Joe built himself a heavy bag. He got a burlap sack, and he filled it up with rags. And he made himself a heavy bag. He'd wrap his dad's necktie, his mother's nylons around his fist to protect his knuckles. And he'd hit that bag for hours at a time, man. And he did that for years. And that was before Joe got off the farm. That's before Joe realized there was way more to life than living on the farm. And Joe had a tough time getting along with people too. So he moved up north. And he landed in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, bro. And Joe's trainer, Yance Yank Durham, man. I mean, a historical figure in the great trainers in boxing. And Joe set out on an amateur career. And Joe made it. He was deadly in the amateurs. His one nemesis, the guy who beat him, was Buster Mathis. And I had the pleasure of meeting Buster Mathis' son, Buster Mathis Jr. I had him on my show not too long ago. And he was very awkward, very fast. This is what Joe Frazier had. He had a problem with him, and he got beat in the amateurs. He went on. Joe kept winning, though. Joe didn't get discouraged, and he went to the Olympic trials. And there, once again, he gets beat by Buster Mathis. And Joe's very, very He's very bummed about this, man. But his trainer, Yance Durham, says, Joe, he says, go to Tokyo. Go on the alternate team, bro. I mean, you were the first runner-up. If something happens to Buster Mathis, you'll get your shot at the Olympics. You'll get your shot at being on the team. And that's what he did. Joe went to Tokyo and he boxed with everybody. He boxed with heavyweights, middleweights, light heavyweights. And what happened was Buster Mathis injured himself in training, and he couldn't go on. And Joe got called up to the big team. Joe was in one of the preliminary matches, and he felt something in his thumb go, and Joe broke his fucking thumb, man. He didn't tell anybody. He went back to his room. He soaked the thumb. He wasn't going to cop out with an injury, and he went on and he won the Olympic gold medal with a broken thumb. I mean, amazing stats. This is 1964. This is the only Olympic gold medalist that we had that year in boxing, and it was Smoking Joe Frazier. 4 years earlier, Muhammad Ali. And man, I gotta chuckle whenever I mention these two guys, man. They're locked forever in immortality, and they will be. They will be forever, man. But anyway, man, Joe turned pro. And in 1965, he's hitting the heavy bag. He's training, and he gets glass shards in his eyes. He gets splinters from the heavy bag. And he, Joe didn't have money to go to a doctor. Joe was kind of like letting nature heal itself. Even when he destroyed his left hand on the farm, the family couldn't send him to a doctor. Joe had to bite the bullet, man. Joe is so tough, bro. So anyway, man, Joe is, as time went, as a few years went by, Joe was blind in his left eye, and he didn't. That didn't stop him, man. You see fighters today with eye problems. We just saw Errol Spence have cataract surgery, and everybody's because it's all known right now. We know it. See, Joe Frazier had this. Nobody knew it. Only Joe and his trainer. And Joe fought on. You've seen the Rocky movies where they give the eye test, and Rocky's freaking blind in his left eye, and the doctor puts up his fingers. How many fingers do you see? And Mickey Mickey hits Rocky on the shoulder. One, like this, boom, once, boom, boom, twice, and they got away with it. And that's how Sylvester Stallone got that scene from the Rocky movies. That's how Joe Frazier passed his physicals and made it to his pro career. And he got Buster Mathis when he was a pro. He ended up avenging his loss to Buster Mathis. And the first time I saw Joe Frazier was when he fought Oscar Bonavena at Madison Square Garden. I didn't see the fight as it happened. I saw it on Wide World of Sports the following Saturday, because these fights were usually on a weeknight at Madison Square Garden. And I think this one was Monday night. It was during the week anyway, man. I'm pretty sure. I can't say for sure because, man, see, I do these things off my head. I don't write any notes down. I get the boxing rec on the screen just to make sure the dates and the dates and the names are verified. But see, I lived through this era, and Smoking Joe, when Muhammad Ali was in exile, the heavyweight division was in a shambles. You had fighters like Oscar Bonavena, Jerry Quarry, Buster Mathis Jr., Joe Frazier. I mean, and you had up and coming fighters too coming up, like the Ron Lyles. You had Eddie Machins in there. Doug Jones is still active, man. We had a wide open heavyweight division, and people. I'm like a 8th grade, 9th grade, and I'm a wood shopper. I had classes in wood shop, and the wood shop teacher, his name was George Garzone, and he says, you got to check out this kid Joe Frazier. He's like Rocky Marciano. And so I'm just beginning my my foray into boxing, and I was amazed. I was impressed with Joe Frazier. I'm eating on this weed right now. It's called Gary Poppins. Thank you, Cass, man. I'm a man. I'm not the man, bro. There's a, as far as the history of boxing, I'm just a disciple out here, man. I listen to cats when they speak, guys like Scrapbook Boxing, guys like the Boxing Librarian. These guys are the true historians, man. I was just lucky enough to live through this era and to remember what went on. And like I said, man, Joe just beat everybody. He came up the ranks, man. After I saw that fight with after I saw the fight with Oscar Bonavena, and Joe was down in the fight. I think he was down twice. What happened to my freaking computer here? Bear with me. I think I'm in a little bit of a technical glitch. I think my battery died on my this. Got it back again. Yeah, we're good again. We're good again. Okay. Frazier was knocked down twice in the second round in that fight. The fight with Oscar Bonavena. See, I'm looking at. I knew he was knocked down. I can't remember if it was once, if it was twice, but I'm reading it in Box Rec, and he was knocked down twice. And it was a split decision. So there was possibly a chink in Joe Frazier's armor, but he still came out on top. He worked his way back up again. He fought George Chuvalo in Madison Square Garden. I remember seeing that fight on Wide World of Sports. Jose Diaz, my brother, salute, man. He stopped George Chuvalo. George had never been off his feet. He wasn't off his feet in this fight, but unfortunately, George Chuvalo had that white man's disease. He had that tender skin. It was bust open, and he lost. Whenever he was stopped, it was on a technical knockout. The referee had to come in there and save poor leaky George. George Chuvalo is still alive today too, man. Fucking truly a legend in boxing up in Canada. Anyway, he stops George Chuvalo. He fought Buster Mathis for the New York State Athletic Commission heavyweight title, the vacant New York State Athletic Commission heavyweight title. The New York State Athletic Commission was recognized by New York. I know it was Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Maine. The rest of the country was under the jurisdiction of the World Boxing Association, formerly the National Boxing Association, because all these organizations were changing. The NISAC, they put their alliance eventually in the WBC. Hey, Canes Dolphins, bro, salute, man. Thank you for coming by, bro. You want to listen to some boxing history? I know this bores a lot of people, bro. It really does, man. But if you're a fan of boxing today, you can't deny the boxing history. And you can't overlook it. If you want to be hip on what's happening today, if you want to speak and have heads turn and listen to what you're saying, you better know what you better know where these guys came from. I see a lot of these channels today. They talk boxing from 5 years ago, and that's it, bro. I mean, boxing has got such a rich and glorious history. And like I said, man, Joe Frazier is now a world champion, albeit the New York State Athletic Commission title. Still a big title, recognized by New York City, Madison Square Garden, the mecca of boxing, where all the big fights were had. Hey, my brother Martin Dunstead, man. Glad you caught my live, bro. Martin's another man. Martin is a borderline boxing historian. I don't know him that well, but I see him at all the channels who know their shit. And Martin comments. When he makes comments, I take notice, bro. Shout out to my friend Martin Dunstead out there, man. Peace. Oh, George was. Oh, yeah, man. I mean, back in the day, talking about George Chuvalo. George Chuvalo was definitely a body puncher. George was an inside fighter, man. I mean, some great fights. One of the first fights I saw was George Chuvalo and Jerry Clory. It was on. I came home and my dad is watching it on Friday Night Fights. And it was a fantastic fight. Anyway, Jerry Quarry is piecing up George Chuvalo. It was the 10th round. George knocks him down. Might have been with that left hook we're talking about, this Cass. But yeah, there was almost a riot after the fight. Jerry Quarry took the count on his knee. He said he missed the referee's count with the ringside count. Anyway, man, great fight. And yeah, George Chuvalo, tough guy. Today, he would definitely hold a world title, even if it was a cruiserweight. But, yeah, he was amazing fighter, career that would break your heart. Hey, man, I don't know any other way, bro. I don't know any other way, man. You know, I like to just share my experiences. And Joe Frazier, bro, we haven't even begun. We haven't even started, man. Joe's the NYSAC heavyweight champion. I didn't really know the difference back then. I was just watching it when I could, and you know, I didn't know the depth of boxing when there were two world champions. See, because on the other side, the WBO, they were having their tournament, and this is a tournament to fill the belt after Ali's in exile. In their tournament, I think Jerry Quarry was in there, Floyd Patterson, Jimmy Ellis. Follow. Hey, my brother, Blood Boxing, man. There he is. There's my brother, the true boxing historian. I'm so looking forward to Sunday night, man. And anybody out there, I'm going to put the link in a little bit. It's Traveling Fools. He's a crazy cat who does trivia. He takes a liking to me and Blood on there. He's going to do some boxing trivia on Sunday night. Me and Blood are going head to head, man. Old school. Anybody wants to come on there, please do, man. Traveling Fools. He's on YouTube. Go sub to the brother. And man, you know, Sunday night, man, 10:30, boxing trivia. I've been honored to win a boxing trivia in Marlowe's corner one night, man, because doing a lot of 80s stuff. He's asking about George Chuvalo. He's asking about Salvador Sanchez and Wilfredo Gomez, and bro, I was right on. Mark Rival was in there. Mad Chad was in there, and they're like, Jesus Christ, BruceGas. The fuck's up with you tonight? And it just so happens when you start speaking the language that I dig, it comes back to me, man. And it's so much fun, Blood. It really is, man. I hope I'm still sharp at 10:30. Well, I will be. So anyway, man, Joe Frazier is now the NYSAC heavyweight champion of the world. Basically the pinnacle. He defends that title against Manuel Ramos and Oscar Bonavino once again. This time he wins it by unanimous decision. And these are 15-round fights, man. These are not 12-round fights. These are 15 hard rounds. He fights Jerry Quarry again. He doesn't want to fight Jerry Quarry. Jerry Quarry punches hard, but Jerry Quarry's the mandatory contender. He's got to fight Jerry Quarry. He does it in Madison Square Garden. This time he stops Jerry Quarry in 5 rounds and 7 rounds. I'm sorry. I remember watching this fight on My World of Sports on a Saturday afternoon, man, and Smoking Joe and Jerry Quarry. That's two pit bulls going at it in the ring, man. That is war. The next fight he had was his unification for Undisputed with Jimmy Ellis. Jimmy Ellis had won the vacant WBA title. And this fight, see, this was on, I think it was on a Monday or a Wednesday. It was during the week. And I was only 15 years old. I listened to this fight live on the radio. I think this is one of the last fights that was broadcast live on the radio. And I mean, it was I've seen it on YouTube and since then many times. And Jimmy Ellis, unfortunately, Jimmy Ellis was from Muhammad Ali's camp. He was almost a carbon. I don't want to say a carbon copy. Nobody was a carbon copy of Ali. But Jimmy Ellis had that style. He was a slick boxer, but he was just too small. And when Jimmy Ellis tagged and he tagged Joe a few times, he tried to follow up, but man, Joe was a little persistent bull with that left hook that would take your head off. He ended up knocking out Jimmy Ellis in the 4th round. And I'm listening to this on the radio in my bed on my little Sony, a little Sony. It was a digital, but it wasn't the numbers on it. It was like a Rolodex. The numbers would kind of and can't forget that clock, and I can't forget this fight because it was live on the radio. And I don't think they've had live heavyweight fights on the radio since then. I think that might have been the last one. It wasn't televised. It was closed circuit, and I was way too young to, to be out on a school night at closed circuit boxing match. But great commentary. I don't know if it was Dunlap who did the I can't think of the announcer. There was a classic radio fight, and dude, this was where this charged me. I was up hours after that. Joe Frazier, the heavyweight champ, went to school the next day. Half the people didn't have any clue what I was talking about, but man, I knew the boxing bug had bit me. Yes, yes, Jose, a Rolodex, man, a Rolodex clock, a Rolodex alarm clock. It was my Christmas present, I think in 1970. Don Dunphy, there we go, Martin. That's who it was, man. See, it's funny because I got this name in my head. I've known Don Dunphy. I could name him for years, but when I get up here and I start talking on the microphone, and I don't know, man, my mind's not. It doesn't delve too much back into the memory banks back there. But yeah, Don Dunphy announced it, and Joe's the undisputed heavyweight champ. And see, a lot of people they weren't even thinking Ali's coming back. But Ali is coming back within several months. Ali's coming back, and Ali was cleared of his draft evasion, and Ali fought Jerry Quarry in his comeback fight. Another figure who just his name is locked in there, man. So you know that up in the big sky, you got Ali, and you got Quarry, and you got Frazier. Buster Mathis probably goes in there and give him a couple of rounds. My blood boxing tumbler here, man. Water. Blood, you said it the other day. The only thing I drink, man. Hey, Mick Smith, how we doing, my brother? Like one thing Blood put on there, man. He put Curtis Anderson's face on there, which is over my shoulder right there, man. We're coming up on the anniversary of Curtis Anderson, February 2nd, 2022. It was a day of deuces. But we're gonna honor him as we honor Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, any other great contributor to the sport that I can think of, that I've had contact with. So Joe Frazier, his first defense of the undisputed title is Bob Foster. Bob Foster, hey, knockout Ned, salute, brother. Bob Foster's a tough son of a bitch, a light heavyweight champion, probably one of the greatest light heavyweights of all time. Bob liked to move up into the heavyweight division. Blood, I drank gallons upon gallons. The only other time I drink water is when I go out and I buy bottles of water. But man, this thing has been filled up since the day I got it. It's just, it's basically a part of me. It doesn't leave the house. I'm not one of those fucking cats who go out there with a water jug in their hand. But hey, I like to consume a gallon of water a day if possible, and I just keep filling that tumbler. There's nothing's ever been in that. No coffee, no tea, no juice, no Kool-Aid, no soda, no beer, just water. That thing's a virgin, man. I could probably sell it brand new. And when Blood kicks off, I'm going to probably put that on eBay, maybe get a couple of grand for it. But anyway, man, Bob Foster got knocked out in the second round by Joe Frazier, got knocked out by Muhammad Ali. He tried to go to Terrell. He tried to move to the heavyweights. That was not his thing, man. It kind of makes you realize why we created weight divisions in boxing. Bob Foster would destroy any light heavyweight out there. I'd love to see Bob Foster and Baturbiev on Friday night. And that's going to be a cool fight too with Callum Smith. But man, Bob Foster, do yourself a favor. Go watch. You want to see Bob Foster kill somebody, bro? Go watch the Bob Foster and Mike Quarry fight. It was the co-main event to Muhammad Ali and Jerry Quarry, and Bob Foster nails him. I think it was a right hand. Might have even been a left hook. Bob had all kind of punches, man. But I thought Mike Quarry was dead. Jerry even blamed that as his excuse to for his reason to being beat by Ali. But Jerry Quarry was not going to ever beat Muhammad Ali. But anyway, man, shout out to Mr. Bob Foster, the sheriff of New Mexico, and probably the greatest light heavyweight of all time. Bro, after that, man, March 8th, 1971, probably the greatest day in boxing history, man. Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, the fight of the century, man. Oh, I didn't see it when it happened. I listened to the radio. It wasn't broadcast on the radio, but the AM radio I listened to, the DJ he did what they call rip and read, UPI, United Press International, and the Associated Press. Back in the days of radio, they had these machines, and they were like printing machines, and they just keep printing out the stories, and you rip them off the sheet, and you'd read them. That's how you did your news. You didn't have any news team or anything, but they did it round by round in the rip and read, and WPRO in Providence, WPRO radio. They read it round by round, and man, it was 15 rounds back and forth. Oh man, let me see who this is calling me. See if I have to interrupt. Well, hang on a second. This is business. I gotta take this one. All right, we're back again. Man. That was just a little call I had to take care of. I'm glad I got it. But anyway, guys, the fight of the century, man. The fight of the century. In the 15th round, Muhammad Ali goes down, and he lost the fight. And Joe Frazier beat Muhammad Ali. That was like the talk of the fucking world, man. Muhammad Ali, 2 undefeated. Ali stripped by the powers that be, 4 years in exile, making a comeback, fought his way back within a year. Ali had beaten Jerry Quarry and Oscar Bonavena, set the stage for this fight, and these two went back and forth, man. Oh my God, this was a time to be alive, bro. This was during the height of the Vietnam War. Muhammad Ali, they were calling him the draft dodger, the peace freak. I mean, it was. Yeah, that was the way. No, Martin, it was an important call, but life goes on, bro. Right now, this is more important. This is Joe Frazier's 80th birthday today, and damn it, I'm gonna celebrate Joe Frazier's birthday the way it should be celebrated, man. Talking about Joe Frazier's illustrious career. I'm grateful we got 10 people who dig the glorious history of boxing, man. And hey, it's 12:30. I got the Gary Poppins and the Toka too. And see, that's another thing. The other night when I did my live, I think it was about 3 or 4 hour covering the fights, and YouTube hits me with a restriction saying that I'm breaking their policy. But man, this is 100% legal. I'm in Rhode Island, and even if I wasn't, I have a medical card anyway. It's not valid anymore, but I had one for years, so I wouldn't get in any kind of trouble. I know breaking the law. I'm an honest man. You know, I always show my hands so you don't shoot me. Mr. Pads, you got that right, bro. But man, the fight might have been Joe Frazier's last great fight. I mean, it was both of these guys. They left a piece of themselves in that ring, man. Joe Frazier. Ali went to the hospital. Ali's jaw was out like a freaking grapefruit, man. That left hook, his right jaw. I mean, dude, you know, it wasn't broken. And Ali was in and out of the hospital. Joe Frazier, the beating he took in victory, he couldn't piss for days, and he went to the hospital. He was in the hospital for 30 days. It was reported that Joe Frazier died, man. He was in the hospital, you know, 30 days, bro. I mean, my wife had a heart attack scare a few months ago. They rushed her to the hospital. She was back that night. mean, I went for the eye surgery. I told you cats the same surgery that Errol Spence had, the cataract surgery. I was out of there in an hour, man. They don't keep you in the hospital these days unless you're dying, you know. And Joe Frazier was dying. Joe Frazier was literally dying. He was in the hospital for 30 days. And see, he came back. He came back, and he defended his title several times. Terry Daniels, Ron Sander, they went big defenses, but he was the best heavyweight in the world. He had cleaned out the division, so to speak. But yet there was this cat coming up out of the Olympics in the background. See, we're talking Ali in the 60 Olympics gold medalist, Joe Frazier in the 64 Olympic gold medalist. Now there was this new dude, man, in the 1968 Olympics named George Foreman, 37-0. We didn't think it was going to be any kind of a problem for Joe Frazier, but that was the night of down goes Frazier, down goes Frazier. I was listening to that fight. I didn't see it too. That's another one, man. My dad was real sick at the time. I think we brought him to the hospital that night. And on the way home, I'm listening to the radio and I heard George Foreman stops Joe Frazier in the second round, knocking him down 5 times. I'm like, what? What? And man, I watched that fight. Don King, he went to the fight with Joe Frazier. He left with George Foreman. I mean, he walked over. Joe Frazier was in the locker room by himself after that fight with him and Yank Durham. I mean, everybody abandoned Joe. You know what they say about boxing? You know, first thing goes your title, then your friends, your money, and your friends, and you know everything went for Joe Frazier. And Joe, man, greatest guy in the world, bro. Greatest guy in the world. Oh yeah. And even George, you watch some of George speaks on this fight. George said he was so scared when they had that stare down. And bro, nothing is scary. Joe Frazier, I would get lucky enough, and sometimes I dreamed that I was a professional boxer. And sometimes they'd be nightmares, sometimes they'd be good dreams. And one of the nightmares was looking at Joe Frazier sitting in his corner like this for the 14th round. And bro, that's like walking into the fucking fan. That's walking into the meat grinder. Joe was a killer. Joe had been beaten by George Foreman. We didn't expect that at all. And you know, Joe took a little bit of time off, but then I've seen Joe Frazier twice in my life, bro. I never saw him box. The first time I saw Joe Frazier was at a place that's only, I could walk to it now. It's only about a mile from where I'm living. It's called the Bristol Motor Lodge. Joe Frazier in the knockouts. It was a snowy night. I was drinking at my friend's bar in Warren. We said, let's go see Joe Frazier, man. Joe Frazier's in Bristol. He closed up early. We fucking went to see Joe Frazier in knockouts. Hardly anybody was there. Joe had a green suit on, man. He looked like super pimp daddy up there. I mean, you know, he was definitely no Perry Como on stage, man. He was doing his James Brown shit, man. Oh yeah, blood. He loved it, man. He fucking loved singing, man. He had a smile from ear to ear. He had these chicks playing with him, and he had the whole looked like Sly and the Family Stone up there, man. They were digging it. My town's 99% white. They were digging it. The ones who were there, man, just to see Joe Frazier. I didn't think I'd see Joe Frazier in the ring again, man. You know, I think back then when you didn't know what to think. You didn't have social media. These guys didn't make statements after the fights. If they did, you couldn't see them like you do now. So you were kind of just, you know, you're in limbo. Is Joe Frazier going to fight again? Who knows? Bruce, did Frazier ever say who his boxing inspirations were? Oh yeah. Joe Frazier's boxing inspirations were Joe Louis, fucking Sugar Ray Robinson, even Rocky Marciano. He had that weaving bob style that he had to learn. And it really was almost unique to Joe Frazier because nobody had that style. No heavyweights did anyway. You know, but that was a Philadelphia thing. There were other fighters that came out of Philadelphia after that. But then I saw Joe Frazier again, man. I saw him back in 1985 at the Providence Civic Center. His son, his name was Hector Frazier. They called him Joe Frazier Jr. He was a lightweight. He fought Vinny Pazienza, Vinny's coming out fight. And I saw Joe Frazier Jr. on ESPN, and he was a good professional fighter. But then he ran into this guy named Mike the Machine Gun Mengen. Mike Mengen, he got knocked out. So he was already considered damaged goods. But Joe brought him to Providence to be the B-side to Vinny Pazienza. Vinny was the Providence sensation, the Rhode Island thing. And man, you know, Vinny, it sold out the Providence Civic Center. They had more people in there than they had when they had Elvis Presley play there, Frank Sinatra play there. They had Andre the Giant in a battle royale. They had to turn people away. They had to turn people away from Vinny Paz. I was lucky. I got in there, man. Me and some of my boys. We went out and had dinner before the fight. Then we went to the fight, and you know, seeing Joe Frazier comfort his son after the fight was really moving. Because Vinny Paz was incredible that night. Vinny was in front of his hometown audience, lightning fast. I think Vinny was about 20 years old. Anyway, they stopped Marcus Frazier and they stopped Joe Frazier Jr., Hector Frazier. And you know, you could see the compassion in Joe's face. You know, Joe had experienced loss before. So Joe comforted his son. We didn't see much of Joe Frazier Jr. after that, but Joe Frazier Sr. he went on. I mean, he went on to a rematch with Ali again. This was a 12-rounder at Madison Square Garden. He got beat by Ali, unanimous decision. He chugged on, man. He beat Jerry Quarry. He beat Jimmy Ellis. He kind of went around and took on some of his old friends again, just because. See, Joe was a guy who bad marriages, bad investments. When Joe came on the scene, he had a bunch of investors from Philadelphia. They were called Cloverleaf. They were called Cloverlay, and they built a corporation. They sold stock. You could buy a share in Joe Frazier back then. Joe didn't have any money. He never did. His wife took it. And, you know, he was just too much of a nice guy. And anyway, man, like I said, man, getting back to his career, beats Ali. He has one of the most amazing fights in boxing history. The Thriller in Manila. I mean, how can we forget this fight? This was a war, bro. This was just knockdown, drag out right to the end. Joe Frazier was pretty much blinded. He was pretty much blind on his stool in the 14th round. He wanted to come out. Hank Durham wouldn't let him come out, man. Joe Frazier was Eddie Futch. They saved Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier, for too tough for his own good, would have come out, but he was stopped. He was stopped in the 14th round. The Thriller in Manila, one of the greatest fights of all time. He went on. He still fought on. Joe Frazier with the shaved head, man. You got to see him in the rematch with George Foreman. At least he got a couple of left hooks bounce off Foreman's head, but once again, Foreman stopped Joe Frazier. See, Joe Frazier, he's got four L's in his career, but it's only two people put those L's there: Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. And if you can survive that heavyweight era with only losses to Foreman and Ali, and plus you've got one over Ali, the prime Ali, one of the greatest fights of all time, Ali. I'm not gonna say the prime Ali, because Ali was prime in the 60s. But Floyd, I'm gonna say Floyd. Where am I? He fought again. That's why I'm saying Floyd. He had one more fight. He came back years later in the 80s. He fought this big, huge fucking ex-con from Chicago. His name is Floyd Jumbo Cummings. And it was a draw. Joe Frazier was way over the hill. He really had no business in the ring. But that was his career as a professional fighter. And like I said earlier, man, he had 32 wins, 27 knockouts. He only got beat 4 times, and that one draw, that last fight of his career, man. That last fight of his career was that where he shouldn't have been in the ring. But you don't tell too many. Most fighters don't end their career on a high note. Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson. You can go right down the line. The greatest fighters in the world, man. They don't know when to hang them up. And I remember seeing like Joe Frazier. Joe, he lost everything. He lost his house. He lost his money, but he kept his gym. Eddie Futch and Yank Durham, they made sure that gym had different titles on it. Different people were the owners on paper, and they were loyal to Joe Frazier. So Joe had a place to live. He lived upstairs from the gym, and he trained fighters in the gym in Philadelphia, the famous Joe Frazier gym. Now Jumbo Cummings, man, talk about PEDs. Jumbo Cummings was so jacked, bro. He looked like fucking Mr. Olympia up there, man. Hey, Blood, if you want to come up here and share some memories of Joe Frazier, I'm gonna do this for another 15, 20 minutes or so, bro. I'll put a link in there. And in fact, anybody else, if anybody has any memories of Smoking Jokes, I'm gonna tell you a couple more that I have, man. When he was in his gym, I saw this special, this documentary, and Joe's making a can of Campbell's soup. And Joe's blind in one eye. And it was just so sad to see. Joe's got a hot plate up there, and he's heating a can of soup. And this is a man who should be in a 5-star restaurant. This is a guy who should have who should have a chef and maids bringing him gourmet meals, and he's stirring some Campbell's soup on a hot plate. And man, it was just so bittersweet. Joe Frazier, just a fighter that I remember. And hey, man, my friend Blood Boxing is in here to speak a little bit about Joe Frazier. Blood.
Hey, what's up, man? What's going on, Bruce? How you doing, OG?
Hey, man, I'm glad you stopped up, bro. I had to do this today. Joe Frazier is one of my favorite people in the world. 80 years old, bro.
Man, Joe Frazier was one hell of a fighter, bro. Man, from the 1964 Olympics, it was Buster Mathis who was supposed to be going to that Olympics, and it ended up being Joe Frazier, man. Buster Mathis had a hand injury. Shit, he injured his hand on Joe Frazier's head, I believe. But Joe Frazier went in there, man. He did his thing. He got the Olympic gold medal for America, and then the rest is history, man. He worked in the Philadelphia slaughterhouses, man. A lot of that stuff they got from Rocky, man, they got from Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier was the one who used to punch the meat, man, of the slaughterhouse in Philadelphia and things like that, man. But man, one hell of a fighter, man. I do have a memory of Joe Frazier, man. Back in 2008, when I was with Leaving in the Ring, and we was going on Blog Talk Radio back in them days, Dave Duenas, the guy who was the owner of the Leaving in the Ring, would always get me a legendary fighter. He got me plenty of legendary fighters to talk to, and I would interview these guys, and he'll kind of let me take the lead on the interview because he knew I loved the legendary fighters. Joe Frazier came on there, man. I don't know if he was high or what, man. I know he's not high, but high off life. You know what I'm saying? He had this personality, man, and he was just in the most happiest mood, man. When he came on there the whole time, he was singing. I asked him to sing, and he probably sang 2 or 3 songs. Which one day I'm going to ask Dave Duenas if he could send me that interview or something. That might still be up at the Blog Talk. I'm not sure, but man, Joe Frazier gave us a good time. I forgot what I asked him to sing, but he ended up singing a whole bunch of songs, right? Maybe like 2 or 3 songs. He was just going crazy, man. And I was enjoying it every second of it, man. And when we were asking him questions, he was real positive, man. We asked him about the Ali stuff and things like that, and he had nothing bad to say about Ali at that time. This was 2008, because a lot of people, man, got a little bit angry with Joe Frazier at one time. Some of the fans, because they thought he had this hang up on Ali that he needed to get over. So it was a time it did seem that way, but I think that when it really comes down to it, I'm sure he loved Ali and Ali loved him.
Bro, I saw the when they had the champions on there, when they had Ali and Larry Holmes and Ken Norton and Joe Frazier and George Foreman.
Champions forever, yes, sir.
Well, there's so many outtakes on that, but there was one where Ali and Frazier were sitting right next to each other, and Joe Frazier, they were asking Joe about how he felt about Ali, and he just said, "I love the man," and they held hands, bro. It was just so cool, man. Just seeing how there was just so much love between them, and how Joe, it took Joe a long time to understand it was nothing personal, it was business. And that's the way it was for Ali, but boxing's a funny thing where business and personal they cross the line so much, Ali could straighten that out, and Joe had a real tough time. I mean, Joe, we all know Joe gave Ali money when Ali was broke, and then right in the middle, as soon as the public got around, Ali would say, "Get away from me, you slave! You're an Uncle Tom. I don't want nothing to do with you." And Joe couldn't understand that. Joe just couldn't understand how Ali could talk to him like that after he had given him money and said he was on his side to get him reinstated back to boxing. And but it all got straightened out at the end, because Joe was a Christian, and Joe couldn't die without forgiving people in his life. And that's the interpretation I got out of it, man. Hey, and shout out to Fistiana, man, my sister. Fistiana's in the house. So
shout out to Fistiana. What's good with you, Fistiana? Fistiana's the one who made that cup. I did the design, though, brother. I did the design, and Fistiana made the actual cup. You know what I'm saying? So.
Well, I'll tell you, man, it's gotten miles and miles of use out of me, bro. I use it. It goes up by my bed at night, on my table during the day, and I fill it up 5 or 6 times. Hey, bro, to change the subject a bit, man, that little trivia is going to be nice on Sunday night.
Yeah, that is going to be nice, man. And you know what? I probably, if I would have went over there by myself without telling people, even though you watch Traveling Fools too, but I would have had a chance against his audience. But now I've invited all kind of people, because that guy John Martinez, I've known that guy for like 17 to 18 years. That guy there I'm telling you, that guy is real smart, man, and knows a lot of history. That's in my comment section. Then there's you, with a few people coming over there. It's like, this might be a pretty good one right here. I have no idea what kind of questions this guy Traveling Fools is going to ask, because he's not a boxing channel. If he was a boxing channel, I might be able to say, well, he does like Floyd Mayweather a lot or something like that, but we don't know where these questions are going to come from, right? So it's like, so this would be pretty interesting, bro.
Yeah, there ain't no studying. I mean, you're going in there stone cold. If you don't know the questions he's asking you, bro, and who knows who knows what he's going to talk about? It could be real simple questions. It could be going back to John L. Sullivan. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun. Hey, Just Blaze one, how we doing, my brother? But yeah, bro, I just wanted to come on here today and just to honor the memory that I have of Joe Frazier, man. Because I mean, when I sit down and think about what Joe did for boxing, and I mean, dude, do you remember when everybody was saying Joe Frazier was a cop back in the early 70s?
Now, I wouldn't remember that, but I've researched it though.
Because he used to hang around with the detectives. He used to hang around, because Joe didn't have a lot of friends where he could be himself. So he used to go to the police station and he'd hang around with the boys. And he'd even go for rides in the cars because, hey, man, shit. I can take a 357. I can take a German Shepherd. Or I can take Joe Frazier. What would you rather have?
Yeah, I'd rather have Joe Frazier. Shit, I'll tell you what. And did you cover the Bob Foster fight too? Bob Foster. And
oh yeah.
Yeah, because I came in kind of late on your discussion, man. For some reason, I had this, man. I thought it was coming tonight, Bruce. I'm not used to seeing you go at this time. I saw it in my notifications, and I just assumed it was going to be a nighttime. So I'm really lucky I got to get on here and catch this stream live while you're doing it live, man. I'm really glad to join you in this discussion too.
Hey, I'm on it. I'm on it, bro. I really am, man. You're one of the guys. I'm not gonna go blow smoke up your ass, but no matter where I'm at, even if I'm on some panel and I see Blood Boxing doing a live, I say, guys, I gotta go because I appreciate what you say. I appreciate that where you come from, and I mean, you're one of the G's on YouTube as far as I'm concerned, man. There ain't too many of them.
I appreciate you, man, but so are you. And you know something, man. On Joe Frazier, the one thing that I think about throughout his career is those 3 fights with Ali, man. Well, I guess it's 3 things, but the rivalry he had with Ali. You had the first fight, which was the fight of the century. You had the second fight where Ali got him some redemption, and you had the Thrill in Manila. Yeah. So, those are his because even though he wasn't the same in the next 2 fights, he still gave Ali hell all the time, man. And the Thrill in Manila, man, that was a really rough fight for Joe Frazier and Ali, man. Them guys were never the same after that Thrill in Manila. I think they both should have never fought again after that.
That was an amazing fight where I tell people, if you want to watch a fight where there ain't no Tony Week going in there and stopping this fight, bro. I mean, this is practical. This is to the death, literally to the death. I mean, that left hook Joe Frazier had. See, he couldn't straighten out his hand because of that injured by that hog. He couldn't straighten out his elbow fully, so he developed that hook, that weaving bobbing with that hook upstairs, downstairs. And it was really a thing of beauty. If you watch Joe Frazier in the ring, you're not going to keep Joe Frazier off unless you're Muhammad Ali, George Foreman. You're going to be something real special to stop that guy. Some great fighters like Jerry Quarry, Bonavena, Terrell, they couldn't stop Joe Frazier. Joe just had that dynamite left hook that he'd knock down walls with that sucker.
Yes, sir, man. And he stopped big old Buster Mathis too when they met as pros too. So, well, he could beat up the bigger guys. He was a small heavyweight too, man. People seem to forget. He was, and then he was fighting with that condition with his eye, the majority of his career. He was. I heard he was blind early in his career in one of his eyes. I can't remember if it was the left or the right eye. But I heard that he had problems with that eye for a long time, man. Vision problems and blurry vision and stuff like that.
1965, he was hitting the speed bag in Philadelphia, and the metal shards broke off in his left eye in 1965. He add
that to the documentary, Bruce. I'm glad you gave me that. I'll look for that information because I didn't know exactly what had happened.
Yeah, and that's where he used to cover his eyes for the physicals, where against him would tap him on the shoulder twice with his 2 fingers up. He'd tap him twice, stand behind him. But yeah, man, that was and then Blood, when he won his Olympic gold medal, he did that with a broken thumb, bro.
He did. He sure did. Yes, he did.
He broke his thumb in the semifinal. He went on to the finals. He told nobody. He went in there with a broken thumb in his left hand of all hands, and he still won a gold medal. I mean,
that's true. Yep, that's facts. I did know about that one. You can see the pictures of him out there with his cast on and stuff after the fight, taking the calls from people and stuff like that. And him and Ali, they went at it at that Sonny Liston presser for the fight too. That was the first time because Joe Louis and Walcott and them, they had all gathered up in some little restaurant in Philadelphia, and with Joe Frazier being the Olympic champion, he was invited to attend that whole thing. He ate lunch with them, and they did a press conference over the phone. And he told Joe Frazier, he said, "Man, you need to slim down and you need to go down to light heavyweight. You ain't no heavyweight and all that kind of stuff." And Joe Frazier, of course, that just gave him motivation because he wanted to be the first guy. His goal in 1965, from the articles I read, was that he wanted to be the first guy to beat Ali. And he made a prediction that Ali would still be undefeated when I get to him, and I'll be the first guy to beat him. Of course, we know what really happened. Ali had the little problems with the Vietnam and the draft and all of that stuff, and he ended up coming back to fight Joe Frazier after he had been his exile from boxing and things like that. It still ended up being, I think that just built the anticipation up more. And Joe Frazier was like a hero to a lot of people because a lot of people wanted to see Ali whipped. They call him, like you said, they was calling him a draft dodger and all kinds of stuff like that in the early 70s. And they wanted Ali to get his ass beat. And Joe Frazier was that man he was that poster man for the guy who could beat Ali and strip Ali of his dreams to becoming heavyweight champion again. So.
Well, brother, the country was torn in half at the time. 1971, the Vietnam War is flaring, and everybody took sides. There was really nobody in the middle in that fight. You were either anti-Vietnam or you were America, love it or leave it. And they were both. You think hippies throwing peace signs? No, bro, they're going there with fucking 2x4s, holding their peace signs up, and the love it or leave it's got baseball bats in their hand. And they were meeting in the middle of the street, and this is the first time in my life that I ever saw blood dripping down somebody's face like a fucking wrestling match blood, I mean, it was it was a crazy time, and Joe Frazier was cemented with the American love it or leave it side, and Ali was cemented with the peace, the anti-Vietnam War, and it broke apart families, fathers and sons. It was huge. I mean, it wasn't just a fight. This was as big as Max Schmeling and Joe Louis on a different level. It was personal. It divided the country, and it was just an insane time. I mean, I saw so many people have fights over it. You think Wilder, that's a crazy bro. You should have seen the fans back then.
Oh man, I couldn't imagine. I can't imagine the peace loving flower childs and the hippies with baseball bats and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. They might turn the other cheek one time, but after that, somebody behind them is turning those sticks on them. Yeah, I mean it was crazy times, and cops with nightsticks beating on people from both sides. It was really a fucking crazy time. And this is happening at Madison Square Garden outside the fight while the fight's going on. There were protests and rallies, and it's not like the people are chirping on YouTube like they do today. You're chirping in somebody's face, and they're gonna hit you back. So it was it's way different than today, but kind of the same.
Go ahead, Bruce. Sorry.
Just want to shout out Low Clarity and Heavy Leather. I think I hit Just Blaze one. Thank you, cats, for coming in here, man. This is a birthday party, 80th birthday party for Smoking Joe Frazier, if you don't already know. And I got Smoking Blood Boxing in here with me, bro. And we're just wishing the champ the best.
Bruce, I always wondered what would have happened if Ali didn't get caught up in that situation. They probably would have met around 1968 or 69. And I always wondered how that fight would have went. If he had fought Ali, post Zorro Foley, like maybe in that next year. It might have been a fight, bro. I don't know.
Well, that's when Muhammad Ali was. He was like Sugar Ray Leonard, as fast as that. He had graceful for a heavyweight. Nobody had ever seen a heavyweight move around like Ali. And when he was stripped of his titles and in exile, there was nobody else that could do that again. So you can only imagine if Ali had just gotten better and better, and he lost 4 years of his prime because he was never the same. When he fought Jerry Quarry, it was a different Muhammad Ali in that ring. It was not the 1966-68 vintage Muhammad Ali. It was it was somebody who had to rely on their brains more, and they had to rely on their ability to take a punch. See, Ali never had to take a punch. When he took a punches, he was off balance. He was dancing around. He got knocked down by Sonny Banks and by Henry Cooper, but he was he didn't have that shock absorber that he did in his latter years. In his latter years, he took the best from Ernie Shavers and George Foreman. I mean, it was two distinct and different Muhammad Ali's, bro.
Yeah, that was pure heart that was holding him up against guys like Ernie Shavers and Ronnie Lau and George Foreman. And that's part of the reason why he, ended up how he did, man. He shouldn't have been fighting anymore. In my opinion, I think that Ali probably should have retired after that George Foreman fight, but definitely after the Thrilla in Manila in 75, man. Because those guys took a lot out of each other. Ali said fighting Joe Frazier was like the closest thing to hell, and that he was getting ready to quit on his stool, is what he told the media and stuff like that he was going to quit in that fight. Because Joe Frazier didn't want to stop that fight. Joe Frazier wanted to keep going.
Yeah, no, Ali said, Ange, cut these gloves off. I'm dying. I'm dead. I can't fight. And Angelo Dundee said, look over there. He's not coming out for the 15th. And Ali he realized he had won the fight.
Yeah, man. Oh, man. It was really sad when we lost guys like Joe Frazier and Ali and Marvin Hagler and some of the guys who we've seen go over the past 10 during the social media era. We've seen a lot of these guys go, man. And every time one of these guys go, it feels like we lost like a generation or something. Like, man, he's the last one, and that kind of thing. It's like the last of a dying breed, and that kind of thing, man. Those fighters were just cut from a different cloth, man. They had to really work and grind their ways up. But Ali and Frazier had it a little bit better than guys like Ronnie Lyle and Ernie Shavers, because they came off that Olympic and amateur pedigree. So they were able to get the sponsorships and things like that. I didn't know much about the sponsorships until I started reading into it and what it was like to have a sponsoring group. There's somebody like a Ronnie Lyle who was coming out of incarceration, or Ernie Shavers who had to kind of just fight his way up. You know what I'm saying? So they had it good in that way, man. Red carpet was rolled out for that big fight, man, and everything fell together at the right time to make it a super fight, man. We'll never have a setup like that again, I don't think, man. I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again. I wasn't alive when the first fight happened. I've never seen and experienced anything like that when I started watching boxing. So
it was something where the whole fucking world, was watching it, and not like today. If you're not a boxing fan, you don't know who Tyson Fury is. You don't know who Deontay Wilder is. Maybe you can say, well, I think I might have heard about him, but back then, everybody knew who Joe Frazier was. Everybody knew who Ali was. Everybody knew the fight of the century. I don't know. Maybe we didn't have as much entertainment, and and time was more precious back then. But everybody was there that night. Everybody was. If you couldn't get to a closed circuit, like I said, man, it was big enough where back then too. See, you listen to music, you either played a record or you listened to the radio. You didn't have the internet, the CDs, all the stuff you have today. So the AM radio, instead of playing the top 40 hits, they did the fight. Every round they would read what happened in the fight, and it's almost like hearing it on the radio. Not quite, but almost as good. Where you're only about a minute behind the action, almost as good as the stream services are today. But yeah, man, it was
guys like Don Dunphy they were so good at the commentary, man. They made it like he was right there and stuff like that. I've heard some of his shows before and stuff like that. And man, I tell you, man, those were some good old days in boxing, man. Boxing is just a different sport now. That's why I get mad at these younger guys when they go over and they start disrespecting fighters of the past and stuff like that, and they don't know nothing about them. That's what kills me about these guys is they'll literally come on here and trash somebody like Ali and say, he can't beat the guys today and this and that. They don't know nothing about that era and things. So I don't know. It's kind of like a pet peeve of mine when I hear it. But you know what? I'm not as bad as I used to be. I just let them say what they say and just think like, man, you just need to do some more research on the old school warriors because they don't build them like they used to. And I personally think that Prime Ali would have beat all these heavyweights. And Joe Frazier, he was small, man, but he would have beat a lot of them, man. He would have beat a lot of those guys. You give me a Prime Joe Frazier versus Dillian White or somebody like that, I got Joe Frazier, bro. And keep in mind, he'd probably be a cruiserweight today. They probably would have wanted to put him into the cruiserweight division or something like that. He would have tore them cruiserweights a new one, man. All the heavyweights, Joe Louis, Marciano, all of those guys who were smaller, man, those guys were really great fighters, bro. They had a different mentality going into the ring. But you know what's so funny is that guys like Walcott and even Dempsey and them and Joe Louis, they thought that era was soft. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, this is just the way boxing is. We're always going to think that the next generation is not quite as good as the generation before, and the next generation going to think they were better because they like to talk about, evolution and things like that. So, man, but Joe Frazier, every time I hear about Joe Frazier, man, that fight fan in me comes out because he's just a true fighter, man. There's nothing you can say about Joe Frazier as far as his career to say that he wasn't a gladiator. No, yeah, he got beat up by George Foreman a few times, but Joe Frazier was one hell of a fighter, man. George Foreman ended up being a legendary fighter. Some people back in the day, like you said, they had Joe Frazier winning that fight, but they didn't know how George Foreman's career was going to end up. Even in the 1970s, after the Jimmy Young fight, they had no idea that this man was going to come back in like the mid-90s and win a belt during that era of the heavyweight division, which I thought was a pretty solid era. George Foreman was able to come out of that being 1940s born and able to win a title in the 1990s. So that says something right there about fighters.
That George Foreman story just blew my mind. That's another one that I saw from almost the beginning to the end. And man, when George got beat by Jimmy Young that night, I watched that fight and I watched George getting broken down, losing his cool, not being able to hit Jimmy Young. And I made some money on that fight. I made money before the fight was over. In the middle of the fight, I said to some guys at the bar, Jimmy Young's going to beat George Foreman up in this fight. He's going to win it. Yeah, you want to bet? Yes, I do. And it was like that, man, easy money. But then after that, when he came back after almost 10 years inactivity, that was just too much to behold. I told people that hung with me, they respected my boxing knowledge. I said, George Foreman is coming back. No, you're crazy. I said, no, it's on Tuesday night fights tonight. They said, no, that's an old George Foreman fight. And then when they saw him come in the ring, man, bald-headed, big, fat guy, looked like the Michelin Man. But he's, I mean, it was a joke. But then, hey, my sister Mayhem Miracles, man, thank you for coming by. Salute, man. Thanks for stopping in, and I appreciate it, man. Anyway, man, people thought it was a joke, and then as time went on, he started looking leaner and leaner. He started losing 10 pounds, 5 pounds between the fights. And one thing that did not leave him was that amazing power in either hand. And I saw him fight. Dwight Mohammed Fowley was one of his comeback opponents, and Fowley came in at like 232. Got destroyed in a couple of rounds by George Foreman. But that's when I said, oh, this guy is back. And to watch him, I mean, when he fought the Brazilian guy on HBO, I don't know if you remember that fight. I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head.
Yeah, what was that guy's name again? I know exactly who you're talking about, bro. I know who you're talking about. What was that dude named, the Brazilian dude that he fought?
You know, as soon as I click offline, I'll remember it. But right now, it's probably as we speak. But I saw how, and this Brazilian guy, he was in the top 10. He was high.
It was Adelson Rodriguez, wasn't it?
Addison Rodriguez. Yes.
Yeah, Adelson Rodriguez was his name. Yep.
And you know, and then and he had that. Hey, my brother Joe's out there, man. Salute Joe. And then he had that amazing fight with Holyfield where he lost the title, but it was still. We thought that was the end. We thought he had accomplished what he wanted to do. And man, when he came back and he had that fucking Michael Moore fight. Do you know he wore the same trunks in that fight that he wore in the Rumble in the Jungle?
You know, I knew they were the same color, but I didn't know it was the exact same.
Exact same trunks. If you look at him, you can see he's squeezing into him, but he got into him. And we're watching that fight, and it's like, oh no, George is getting killed over here. Mora is opening up with combinations now out of nowhere. He did it, and it was like, whoa! This is 11 o'clock, and I must have screamed and woke up the whole world. It was just like unbelievable, man, just unbelievable. That and all those guys they're so intertwined, man. You know, Foreman, Frazier, Ali, all the guys we're talking about. You can't mention one without the other.
Man, that night he beat Michael Moore, man. I mean, I was so happy for George Foreman because I'm gonna tell you right now, I do remember when he came back in 1987, and I was watching Boxing Heavy at that time, and I tell you what, man, I was scared for George Foreman, and I thought somebody was gonna knock him out the whole time. I was like, it ain't gonna be long before he runs into one of these young guys. I hope he never gets to fight Tyson. I hope he don't fight Tommy Morrison. I hope he don't fight Riddick Bowe, all the guys who were around. I was really scared. I didn't think he was going to go as far as he did, but man, he went a lot further than people thought. Became really big off the grills and things like that. And yeah, I was really surprised too, man, that an older guy like that. And I was a jit at the time, man, and I just didn't think an older guy could pull something like that off, and he did, man.
Mm-hmm.
He actually represented for that whole era. When he did that, it kind of it brought that whole era up that Joe Frazier and Ali was in when he did that. It just showed that those guys could compete with the 1990s heavyweights because you got an older George Foreman here. You know what's so funny about when Foreman came back, and I know we're going from Frazier to Foreman, but Foreman is a big part of Frazier's legacy. When he came back, man, nobody never put George Foreman on his ass again, bro. He got put on his ass by them 70s fighters. Nobody never was able to do that when he came back as an old man.
Nope. Nobody, man. Nobody. And you know how many George Foreman grills did you go through, Blood? Did you ever cop a George Foreman grill?
Oh man, the George Foreman grills. Man, I got one of those now, bro.
I've been through 3 of them.
I've been through quite a few of them. I've probably had about 5 or 6 George Foreman grills in my time. I got one now. I've had the miniature grill. I've had the big grills. Yeah, man, George Foreman came back, and when he first came back, you're right, he was fat, and I was like, man, this old guy. But then next thing you know, he started, it's like he played a trick on people. He kept promoting this, I'm a burger lover, eating, and I love to eat burgers and stuff like that. But if you was looking at his body, man, this guy was getting back in shape. Next thing you know, he was a big old lump of muscle again, man. Just a big old, joker, man. Still had the power, and he had a different kind of style when he came back. He was more reserved. He wasn't going out there throwing all them haymakers and stuff with like he was doing before. Who was his trainer? Sandy Sadler and them?
Yeah, back when he
was at his first.
Archie Moore, Sandy Sadler.
Archie Moore was in his corner. Yeah,
Angelo Dundee was in his corner.
Angelo Dundee did eventually end up in his corner. He had some. You know what? Let me ask you something though. Who was Jimmy Young's trainer? Because Jimmy Young, that was one hell of a fighter there now.
I know who, but I can't think of it right now.
Yeah, it was someone from out of Philly, man.
I want to say Sam Solomon, but
okay.
But I don't think I'm right. But
there was a lot of fighters that Frazier didn't fight in the 1970s because he kind of went inactive, which I'm glad he did. But he didn't fight Jimmy Young. He didn't fight Ken Norton. He didn't fight Ronnie Lyle. There was a lot of guys that Frazier basically he got really inactive during the 70s. And I always wonder why that was that he became so inactive. You think that has something to do with his eye or something like that?
Yeah, and you know, not only the eye, but just the fact that his body was just so shot. He took the big money fights, and you know, like Ken Norton and him were buddies. You know, they didn't do it for personal reasons, from what I understand. But they were like you said, Lyle, Shavers. I mean, just a lot of fighters back then. He took the money fights, and hey man, you can't blame Smoking Joe for anything. He had just a great career, and you know, I don't think we'll ever see another one like that.
Oh no, man, we'll never see another one like him. He just cut from a whole different cloth, man. He even stood out for the fighters of that era, fighting bigger guys and things like that, and fighting with his handicap and all that. You know, there's a lot of it was heart, man. A lot of it wasn't even skills. He had skills, but a lot of what Joe Frazier was doing was just having a big heart and having a killer instinct and being a dog. I mean, he fought that cat Oscar Bonavena a couple of times. Bonavena wasn't nothing to be played up with. A lot of people downrate the guys from that era, but they don't understand that guys like Bonavena, man, these guys was tough son of a guns, man. Bonavena, Jerry Quarry was a devastating puncher that when he was in the Golden Gloves, man, he knocked out 4 people unconscious for over 3 minutes. Like, I mean, these guys were killers, man. Joe Frazier fought some really good fight. Jimmy Ellis had a long amateur background and came up with Ali and stuff like that. He was able to go in there and beat Jimmy Ellis, man. You know, Frazier. And you know what? I noticed that the fighters, they had a lot of respect for him, because when he did fight Jumbo Cummins was a dirty fighter. He was biting Ronaldo Snipes, and you know, he tried to bully these guys at the press conference. He didn't do none of that stuff to Joe Frazier. He didn't try to bully Joe Frazier. He didn't do that. Like George Foreman said, shit, I was scared of Joe Frazier, man. You know, Joe Frazier was just a no-nonsense kind of guy when he wanted to be. And then nobody really stepped over that line with him other than Ali.
Yep, Foreman said his knees were knocking when he was in that. He said, good thing Joe Frazier didn't look down at his legs because his knees were knocking. Bob Brown is Jimmy Young's trainer, says the drunk Irishman.
Who was it?
Bob Brown.
Oh yeah. You know what? I've heard of him. Yeah, I know who he's talking about.
Okay, man.
Trainers were really good in that era, man. I learned a little bit more about some of them trainers, man. And man, those guys, man, were just passing on knowledge from generation to generation. And then you end up finding out who they were connected to and stuff like that. Especially all them trainers from out of Philly. They was connected to a lot of the fighters from the golden era and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, those guys taught really good fundamentals, and they really went by the basic skill sets of boxing. You know, I'm just saying, man, those guys, they were well trained and they were more prepared than the fighters of today, man. The fighters of today, they get paid so much, man. They go home and they get that big paycheck, and you don't hear from them for a whole year and stuff like that. And that's why they're not as skilled as the fighters from back then. People always say that the fighters today are more skilled, but I don't see it, bro. I don't see it. I think the fighters from back then was more skilled.
I see it.
Talk about the film footage and stuff like that, but the film footage was not good. It was in high definition. Imagine if we had a Jack Johnson fight in high definition with the 4-ounce glove fights and stuff like that, where we had several different angles and we could see that real time and high def and sweat coming off of them and stuff. Man, those would be some brutal fights to watch, and anybody with common sense knows that. You know what I mean? We just didn't get to see a lot of that stuff. But you don't take away from their accomplishments because you didn't get to see it. I mean, it's in writing, it's in black and white what they accomplished. All the proof is out there, the articles out there, everything.
You don't have to convince me, bro. I mean, I grew up in that era. I'm still growing up in this era today, and there's just no comparison. No comparison. Nobody really ducked anybody back then. You couldn't do it. You couldn't do it and still be a man. You know, it was money was secondary. Money was always going to be there. You fought. That's what you did. That was your job. you're a fireman. You fight fires. You're a cop. You go keep the peace. Whatever it is you do. But fighters today, they're part-time boxers. They're not full-time fighters like the cream of the crop was, bro. Totally different animals back then.
Yep.
Totally
You had an opportunity to go on TV and get a fight that's going to even be covered on TV. That's going to get TV coverage. You had to take that opportunity, and you had to take that opportunity to get a belt. There was no social media to fall back on. There was no 4 belts in every division, and then they tier the belts too. And there wasn't all these weight classes and belts and opportunities that fighters today have to self-promote and brand and all of that stuff. They had to totally rely on either ink in the paper or getting a TV deal. If you walked out on a TV deal, they might not give you another chance again. And some fighters they kept out of these big lucrative TV showings and stuff. Like, look what they did to Marvin Hagler. You know what I'm saying? This guy basically was around for a decade before he before anybody was brave enough to really give him the fight, and things like that. So he had to take it when he got it. He didn't have social media that he could complain to and go to the fans and say they're ducking me and stuff like that. He couldn't do that. They didn't have no voice back then. If they wasn't in the paper, who was going to hear Marvin Hagler complain? If the writers weren't going to pick it up, and the media and the people who make the TV deals and stuff like that, the guys had no voice whatsoever.
Totally different sport than it was, and I'm trying to bring them together as best I can by letting people know what happened back in the day and what's happening today. And the stuff we're seeing today, nothing new happens in boxing. Everything that you see happening today, just do a little bit of research. It's already happened before. You can find out how they settled it. You can find out what should be done about it. Really, there's nothing new that's going on today except the crazy business of fighting. And I'm just along for the ride there, man. I'm ready to see the fight tomorrow night, man. You looking forward to seeing Beterbiev and Callum Smith?
It's going to be a good fight. It's going to be a good fight. I'm looking forward to that. Yes, sir. I will be watching that fight. Beterbiev, he's getting up in age, but I think he's going to stop Callum Smith. That's what I think. Even though he's an older guy, man, he comes in really good shape. He seems really dedicated, and I'm going to favor him to win that fight. The only guy I think who could beat Beterbiev is Bivol. That's it. We still have to see that fight. That's the fight that people need to see right there, is that Bivol versus Beterbiev or Beterbiev, whichever one you want to call him. That's the fight that we want to see. Now, back in the day, that fight would have already been done happen. That fight would have been done happen if it was back in the earlier eras and stuff like that. That's what gets me about this new boxing crowd, man. They don't have no respect for the old school fighters. In every other sport, they respect the old school warriors. They respect Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and Pistol Pete and Johnny Unitas and all of them guys. But in boxing, these boxing fans, they're so lazy. They want to totally ignore it and say, that era don't matter. Those guys are old. Those guys are, we don't have no film on them. Well, should ain't no film on what's his name, Bronco Nagorski and them. And the NFL guys, they respect them. They respect all of those guys, Jim Thorpe and all them. So why do they do that to them Warriors? I have no idea, man. But
that's why it's our job, Blood. That's why it's our job to do things like this. Let people know that boxing didn't start when Shakur Stevens turned pro. It doesn't end when Deontay Wilder gets knocked out. Boxing is just so rich in history and bro and man, all I can say is, without going too far off in different directions, man, Joe Frazier, the man of the day, man, 80 years old today. And hey, Blood, I gotta get out of here in a second, bro. Anything you want to say, man?
Hey, man, salute to Joe Frazier, man, and Bruce. Enjoy the fight tomorrow, man. You gonna call it tomorrow?
I might, bro. Yeah, it's gonna be a kind of a short card. It's not gonna be a whole drawn out. It's on ESPN, and if the spirit moves me, absolutely, bro, absolutely. Speaking of Beterbiev, man, I was talking to his brother. I was talking to his assistant trainer the other night, John Scully, the Iceman.
Yes, yes,
And
hell yeah, yep.
you know,
Yes,
he,
sir.
you know, and he told me, you know, he was Baturbiev had some had tooth surgery. Yeah, he had an abscess, an infected tooth. He had to call off his training. And this guy is just so tough where he didn't even he wasn't even calling off saying he was sick until Scully noticed something wasn't right with him. And they had to pry into him to find out that he had a toothache. And so and it was more than a toothache. It was an abscess. It was way down in the jaw. He's had that surgery. He's fighting again. But he's telling me things about Baturbiev where when he fought Joe Smith, he didn't even know who Joe Smith was. It's
Wow.
just, I mean, he does not know boxing. He doesn't know the history. He's just a devout Muslim who wants to fight and win titles for his family. Never had a drink in his life. Doesn't smoke. Prays 5 times daily. I mean, this is a different individual. He's almost 40 years old, but he's like 40 going on 30. He's that resilient. His body is really been taken care of. I'm really looking forward to seeing that fight tomorrow.
I don't think he'll be around for much longer. I think you know what's funny about those Eastern European fighters, man. A lot of them guys didn't even have a whole lot of professional fights. They come off long amateur careers. Some of them guys like Turbiev and Lomachenko, these guys have less than 30 fights, you know, and stuff like that. And we kind of got robbed of seeing them at their best and things like that. So we got to enjoy them, man, while they're around, because those guys are from a different mentality than these American fighters.
Hundreds of amateur fights, just amazing. Nando Ramos, my brother, salute out there, man. Thank you for coming by, Fistiana. I appreciate you coming by, man. You classed up the joint.
It was good to see Fistiana, man. It was real good.
Oh yeah. It definitely gave me a little urge to keep this show going a little bit longer, Blood. And thank you so much for coming up, man.
Yes, sir, man. Hey, take it easy, Bruce. I'll see you on Sunday too, man. Be ready, man. Bro. Be ready to go ahead and lose that.
If there's a way to cheat, I'm gonna find out between now and Sunday, bro.
All right, Bruce, man. Salute to you, OG.
Peace out, bro. Peace out, man. Hey, that's my brother, Blood Boxing, man. And once again, Sunday night, 10:30, Traveling Fools. I'm gonna do a little thing in my community page to let you know about that. But it's gonna be a nice little trivia contest. Me and Blood are gonna be there, and Lord knows who else. But it's gonna be a lot of fun. And once again, man, appreciate everybody for coming on here. This is BruceGas, Boxing, Jazz, and more. I'm out of here.
Shout out BruceGas, aka Token 2. You know I had to drop a track with my boy. Where you at? Yeah, tapping in your rapping boys out here telling fake. I'm the hardest nigga, I ain't signed to no label. Hey, BruceGas put a no fight on the table. Calling that boxing since Kane versus Abel. Smoking so much gas, you would think that shit was fatal. I don't know if it was simple like Muhammad Ali. Shut up, BruceGas, one day we gon' meet. Yeah, we gon' blow it down, we gon' smoke hella weed. Yeah, we gon' blow it down, take a hit out the Token 2. Slipping hella shots, feel like Tyson with the peak. Little Glock on my side, but it hit just like Isaac Cruz. Shout out, man, chat, real shit, that's my fucking dude. We always cooking on the panel. Strapped to my side, I ain't talking about no sandals. Bruce passed me the blunt, I'ma light it like a candle. Ayy, non-stop bars, man, I always spit flames. Feel like BruceGas always got a different strain. Bitch, you ain't like me, you can never feel my pain. You win and you lose, well, this a fight game. Don't beef on the net and the shit won't change. Said that on the street, gotta do it for the game. Said that on the street, gotta do it for the chat. I ain't undisputed. Yeah, hold on, I ain't undisputed, but I want all the straps.